On episode 8, The Ocho, we are going to be talking about financial plans. And if you are failing to plan, then you are planning to fail. Take some notes out. Why are you just sitting there? Get a pen and paper out. You're going to want to write this down. Cue the music, everybody. Today is episode 8 of SWBC's Uncharted Wealth podcast, where we break down the complex financial topics and help you simplify things so you can journey through your financial life with confidence. I am your host, Mike Walters. I am a certified financial planner and a wealth advisor here at SWBC. And today we are talking about a topic that really hits home, financial planning. Okay, the episode is Starting Smart, how to create a financial plan without getting stuck. Just kidding. I got stuck for a little bit. Now, when you hear a financial plan, how many of you picture a 100-page binder with all kind of charts and financial jargon that you have no idea how to read it, right? Real financial planning doesn't have to be overwhelming. It should be empowering, right? So today we're going to walk through what it really means to build a financial plan and how to take action without feeling paralyzed by the complexity of all the different things that a financial plan entails. So go into our first section here and define what is a financial plan. Well, like I mentioned earlier, it's not this huge binder full of pages and charts and graphs anymore. It is a living, breathing roadmap that helps you reach your financial goals. Financial goals can be retirement, education for you or for your kids, maybe home ownership, starting a business, maybe leaving a business, leaving behind a legacy, any and all between, whether it's a short-term, mid-term, or long-term financial goal. That's what the financial plan is there for, is to find ways to reach those goals and how to do it the most efficient way possible. Now, the core elements of a financial plan: budgeting, savings, investments, taxes, and estate. Okay? Those are, don't quote me on this, but those are the key core elements of what comes into a financial plan. Okay? And you don't need to be overwhelmed by all these different things, but that's what tends to keep people from actually doing a financial plan, is thinking, oh, what about taxes, or what about how's this going to affect when I pass away and goes to my beneficiaries? What investments do I choose? What about insurance? It just shouldn't have to be overwhelming, but the goal here is to just start small, okay? Progress is better than perfection. Progress over perfection, okay? Some of the things that cause people to think this is all overwhelming is, maybe they're starting too late. They think that they're later on in life. I should have started planning a long time ago, and they just don't get to that next step of actually starting or building a financial plan. Or maybe they too broke. They ain't got no money, right? Excuse my slang, but people think, oh, I don't have money. I don't need a financial plan. A financial plan is for everybody. It doesn't matter how much income you make, or if you're a trust fund baby and you come from money or whatever. You should have a financial plan, because everything I mentioned, insurance, taxes, estate, everybody has to deal with it. So everybody needs a financial plan. Now, another reason, and probably my favorite, is, oh, I'm not ready to start a financial plan. Well, when are you going to be ready? Okay. A mentor that I had in the past, and I'll never forget this, he said, the people that make the best clients, or just anybody in general when it comes to financial planning, are the ones that are going to be raw. RAW stands for ready, able, and willing. Are they ready to make that first step? Are they able to make that first step, whether it's financially or emotionally? And are they willing to listen to advice from someone else? Because there's a lot of stuff out there that gets caught up in the head, call that head trash, of maybe why you're not moving forward with that next step. And if you're ready, able, and willing, my friend, you are ready to build a financial plan. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, Mike, a financial plan sounds all crazy good, but what does it actually take, or what does it actually look like to build a financial plan? So in this next segment, I'm going to break it down step by step on what an actual financial plan looks like. And the first step there should be the most obvious, is define your goals. Why are you building a financial plan? Why do you need a financial plan? Okay, like I said earlier, it's the short-term, mid-term, long-term financial goals that you have. For example, retirement. Well, everybody wants to retire at some point. You don't want to just keel over at your desk, unless you just absolutely love your job that much. But retirement should be a goal for everybody. So defining when do you want to retire, as in what age, what part of life. Are you one of these FIRE people? FIRE standing for financially independent, retire early. These are people that are wanting to retire in their late 40s, early 50s, right? So it can be done. There's people out there doing it. But really defining when do you want to retire, how much money do you need in retirement income, right? So here's an easy analogy to think about is if your salary is, let's say, $100,000 right now, and that's a comfortable salary. You can pay all your bills, live comfortably, do what you want to do right now. Okay, now you're retired. Do you still need $100,000 coming in every year to maintain that lifestyle? And we have to try and project, okay, well, what will taxes be like when you retire? What will the other sources of income be like when you retire? So on and so forth. There's a lot of things to think about, but going back to the initial step here is to define your goals. You can't get where you want to go if you don't even know where you're going to go. There's probably an easier way to say that, but that's just what came through. So step one is to define your goals. Step two is to get organized. And I'm probably beating a dead horse. Can I say that? I can say that, right? Okay. Probably beating a dead horse with this is to get organized. You need to know what income's coming in. You need to know what expenses are coming out. You need to know exactly what assets do I have, what debts do I have, what are my liabilities. If you don't have a budget, then you're not organized. There, I said it. Marie Kondo wants you to organize your life, and so does Mike Walters. So it's all about knowing what your day-to-day looks like, what are your assets, what are your liabilities, what's working against you, just having a clear picture of where you currently stand. Which brings us to step three, which is to build a savings or investment strategy. Again, I've talked about this in previous episodes. You need to have some type of savings plan. You need to be setting aside money every paycheck or every month, getting to those good habits, whether it's going to your savings account or it's going to your investments for your long term. Building that strategy, building those good habits is a very key part of the overall plan, and you have to make sure that that gets implemented sooner rather than later. The fourth step on this is to cover your risks. Okay, so risk management is, a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but it's one of those conversations that has to be had, right? So covering your risks just mean planning for the unexpected, okay? The emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of living expenses in case you lose your job, or you want to take a sabbatical, or something crazy like the COVID pandemic happens and your income goes down if you're like a commission-based person. So that's covering your risks for the unexpected. Same thing with having insurance. We've already had an episode talking about life insurance, but there's also disability insurance, right? Obviously not as bad as dying, but if you get an injury and you can't work, well, you still got to bring in money somehow. So that's where we look at disability insurance. Or what about long-term care? As you age, their health tends to go down, so on and so forth. A long-term care event can seriously put your financial plan at risk if you don't have some kind of long-term care insurance, or at least a plan to pay for those healthcare costs. So covering your risks is I would argue, is probably one of the more important steps out of all this. But for now, we'll just keep it at number 4. And number 5 is to plan for your taxes. Now, it's probably one of my favorite ones because I'm a tax nerd. But no matter what you do with your money, there is going to be some type of tax consequence. And here's a little foreshadowing. I love to talk about taxes. We're going to do an episode sometime in the near future where I'm going to be talking about how your money gets taxed, so you're definitely going to want to make sure to listen to that episode. But taxes are a big, big part of the financial plan because why? Everybody has to pay taxes. And it's one of the biggest pain points that everyone has almost every single year when they get to January, February, March, April. What are they worried about? Filing their taxes. Am I going to get a refund? Am I going to have to pay? So on and so forth. So just knowing your tax situation and planning for it, again, big part of the plan. And then last but not least, once you have a plan in place, you need to be revisiting and adjusting your plan regularly. Monitoring that every year to make sure, okay, am I still on track? Life's going to throw you curveballs. Maybe you're going to get promoted. Maybe you're going to get demoted, whatever. Income changes, maybe you have a baby, some lifestyle changes, so on and so forth. Your plan, like I said, it's a living, breathing thing. It needs to adjust as life happens. And so that's where this 100-page binder is no longer, useful, maybe as a paperweight. Well, that's just funny because you have paper holding down paper, like a paperweight. Whatever, I said paper too much. But that's why these things are fluid now. It's a living, breathing financial plan that you can monitor, adjust regularly. And look, you don't have to tackle everything all at once, okay? That's why working with an advisor is going to be paramount with this, because not only are they going to help you prioritize based on your current situation, like which one of those things need to be implemented first, but they are going to actually help you implement those things. If you just got married or you just had a kid and you're the sole breadwinner of the family, life insurance or disability insurance is probably going to be one of the first things to talk about. Or if you don't have any kind of estate planning documents like wills, power of attorney, stuff like that, nobody knows what the next day is going to bring. So it's probably pretty smart to be looking at your estate planning as well. So just working with an advisor and really finding out what are the pain points. That way the advisor can address those with a higher priority is really where the value comes from in working with an advisor. So this brings me to the Uncharted section of today's podcast, where I kind of just want to talk about these emotional barriers of why people are not getting their financial plan done, okay? I'm behind. I started late. I don't have enough money. I made a little joke earlier about people being broke, but it's really not something to be funny. I'll start later. Life's going to continue to happen. You're going to say, oh, I'll do that when I get my next raise, or I'll set up the meeting with the advisor once we get this debt paid off. Well, newsflash, you're probably going to go into more debt. You're probably going to have another life event that you're just going to keep kicking that can down the road. No, this is not actually going to happen for most people, but I'm just saying it does happen. You're going to keep kicking that can down the road. So what we need to do is kind of reframe it. Because again, the truth is you do not have to have this all figured out all at once, okay? So financial planning, it's not about perfection. It is about taking control one step at a time. What are the pain points? What are the highest priorities? And knocking them out as they go. Because then once you get to this point where you're working on a financial plan or you got one in place, you're going to look behind and say, man, I'm so glad I did that, okay? So really, really encourage everyone to just shift their mindset away from fear and procrastination into something of clarity and intention. Really looking forward to what do I want to accomplish over the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years when it comes to your finances, and starting on those small steps to get you to progress over perfection, okay? So if you've been putting this off, maybe you've been a silly goose for the last couple years and not doing what you should be doing. Well, maybe this is your sign to take that first step and reach out to an advisor. Of course, we'd love you to reach out to us here at SWBC in the Wealth Management Division, but just talking to anybody is going to be your first step. Or there's so much information out there in this technology world. You can go to Google or a lot of these AI services to really see, if you have a question on taxes or life insurance or what is this, how do I do that? There's so much information out there that you can be doing, and that's really where you can take your first step. So if you are looking to make that next step to reach out to an advisor or do your own research, whether it's online or using AI or something like that, that is the encouragement that I'm going to give you. That's the call to action that I want all the listeners to look at is maybe do your research on what is really keeping you from engaging or what is really keeping you from wanting to learn more or move forward in the process of creating a financial plan. Write down your goals. Maybe look at automating some of your savings like we talked in the previous podcast. I mean, there's so many different small steps that you can be taking to kind of get some momentum going, right? And talking to advisors, I mean, we are here to help. I mean, most of us got into this industry because we want to help people. I mean, that's why I did it. And so if you do want to take that next step and talk to an advisor, please reach out. And all advisors, whether they're here at SWBC or with another firm, we have a very, very strict confidentiality policy. Okay, it is baked into the licenses that we have to where anything that we talk about in our meeting is strictly confidential. So whether you are outside of SWBC or maybe you're an employee watching this podcast, just know that anything you talk to me about or another advisor, it's going to stay between us. Okay, it's not going to leave the room. And it's your personal stuff. That's personal information, and I'm going to do my best to make sure that that we're taking care of that confidential information respectfully, and so that way we can move forward and making recommendations. So that way you feel the most comfortable talking about. I mean, that's a big deal. Is talking about your finances or wanting to hand over your entire life savings to somebody. That's a big step as far as trust goes. So you should know that, hey, that confidentiality is going to be there, again, whether it's with us or with another advisor. So I want to thank everybody for joining us on the 8th episode of SWBC's Uncharted Wealth Podcast. Just want to remind everybody that we really appreciate the feedback that we've been getting. Just a reminder again, subscribe to the YouTube channel, share it with your friends, throw some comments out there, even if you want to talk about my hair. I'm getting a haircut today, so don't judge me. But we very much encourage feedback, so please give it to me. Don't be a silly goose and just sit there and not share it with your friends, because we want you to share it with your friends. So, and the last thing, obviously I got to do the disclosure thing. Anything I talk about is purely my opinion, not the opinion of SWBC or its executives. Nothing in this podcast is to be taken as financial advice, legal advice, or tax advice. So definitely consult with an advisor if you want to learn more. So thanks for joining us on the Ocho. Bye.
Investing involves certain risks, including possible loss of principal. You should understand and carefully consider a strategy's objectives, risks, fees, and expenses, and other information before investing. The views expressed in this commentary are subject to change and are not intended to be a recommendation or investment advice. Such views do not take into account the individual financial circumstances or objectives of any other investor that receives them. This information should not be considered a solicitation nor a recommendation of an offer to provide any service in any jurisdiction where it would be unlawful to do so under the laws of that jurisdiction. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Please consult with your individual tax professionals and/or attorney for additional information.